Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Precious. Precious was a very beautiful and gorgeous woman with a radiant smile. Every man who gazed at her fell for her at once. Precious came from a very poor family. They had nothing to give. Her father died when she was just 11 years old, leaving her with her mother and her 3 siblings who were still very young. Precious grew up doing menial jobs, farming for people in the village and clearing lands for others in order to get paid and help support her family with her mother. But all their efforts were not enough to sustain them. Precious was deeply frustrated with life and her fading hope of making it big. The men in the village always tried to take advantage of her irresistible beauty, but Precious always declined their advances. Precious did the little things she could to earn money, but it was painful for her to do all that and still help feed her 3 siblings. One day, however, luck shone upon her. She was coming back from farm work one day when, along the road, a beautiful car stopped beside her. Lo and behold, an old friend of Precious stepped out of the car. Her name was Stacy. "Hey, Precious, how are you doing? It's been a very long time," Stacy said as she tightly hugged Precious. Precious was surprised and happy to see how far her old friend had come over the years. Stacy was now rich and dressed comfortably. Stacy drove Precious home. They sat down and discussed. "Come on, girl, what are you doing here? You don't look good in this situation," Stacy said, concern written all over her face. Precious narrated her story to Stacy, telling her about her years of suffering. Stacy felt pity for her and decided to help. "Okay, do you know what?" Stacy drew closer to her. "I'd like you to come with me to the city. I will show you what I do and how I make money, so you can start making money just like me and take care of your 3 siblings and mother too," she said. Precious was happy. For the first time in her life, she had an opportunity to better her life, thanks to a friend. After Stacy left, Precious told her mother everything. Amaka, Precious's mother, was not comfortable with the idea of Precious going to the city because of the wayward lifestyle there. But it was left for Precious to decide, as she was not getting any younger. The next week, Precious prepared for the city and left with Stacy to go and find her green pasture. A few minutes later, they entered the city. Precious was captivated by the view of the big city and was happy to be there. Later in the day, they arrived at Stacy's house. Precious was very surprised to see Stacy's house and how fancy it was as she looked around. "Wow, your house is so big and gorgeous. You are making it big here, girl, and I can't wait for you to teach me what you do so I can start doing it as well," she said, so determined to get into work but unaware of what was about to hit her. The next day, while at home at exactly 7 p.m., Stacy prepared to leave for work. She came downstairs and saw Precious sitting on the chair. "Hey girl, I'm leaving for work now. When I come back tomorrow, we'll discuss," she said. "By this time of night, what type of work is this?" Precious asked curiously, but Stacy smiled it off and left without a word. Precious was confused and couldn't tell what type of work Stacy was doing at that time of night when it was already getting dark, but she wasn't overly concerned. The next day, Stacy came back in the afternoon and sat with Precious. Precious asked her, "How was your work?" "It was sweet and fine," Stacy replied as she prepared to drop the details of her work. "Precious, you know you are a beautiful woman. Just look at yourself and tell me if men aren't dying to have you with them. You are photogenic, very good in appearance, and with this whole package you have, I can assure you that you will make more than $1 million in a day," Stacy said. Precious was happy for a moment, but concerned about Stacy's choice of words. "What are you implying, Stacy? And thank you for the compliment, but I still don't understand what you mean," Precious said, curious to know exactly what Stacy was trying to tell her. "Look, girl, all I am saying is that you can get any man you want with just your beauty alone. Just go out with them, have a nice dinner with them, and let them get in between your legs. Just like that, they pay you millions. That's the nature of the job," Stacy said, explaining everything. Precious was disgusted by what Stacy's job was. "Stacy, I can't believe you, of all people, are doing this type of job. It means you are a prostitute, because that's one word for it. And I don't think I can do it." "Please," Precious said, clearly afraid. "Okay, if you say so, I won't force you. But let me tell you, just last night I made $500,000 from the job. Girl, open your eyes. This is Lagos City. That's how we survive here. Do this and free your family from poverty. Think of your siblings and how they are suffering in the village, and you are here thinking you have a choice. You don't. This is what it is, so beat it or get out. Go back to the village and continue suffering, Stacy said, making it clear to Precious before leaving her. Precious, in pain and sadness, thought about what Stacy said. She knew she couldn't go back to the village empty-handed. Thinking about her siblings, who were depending on her to save them from poverty, made it hard for her to cope. After days of intense thinking, Precious decided to do the late-night job with Stacy, at least long enough to get money and start something good, as she thought it would be easier. Stacy helped her out. They went shopping and bought some necessary things for the job. During the evening, as they were preparing, Precious was a little afraid and nervous. "I don't think I can do this. I'm scared, Stacy," she said, sitting on the bed and clutching her hands. "I know how hard it is for you right now. When I was introduced to this, I was scared just like you are, but I got over it because of the money. So remember, the prize for this body of yours is the money. Don't think about anything else," Stacy said, encouraging her. At 7 p.m. sharp, they left and arrived at a bar. The bar was their private spot where rich men and politicians came to take them for one-night stands and paid them off. Precious and Stacy sat at the bar stand, looking around for anyone who would want their services. Some men sitting in a corner gazed at Precious. With all her beauty, she made heads turn, and they couldn't take their eyes off her. One man approached and requested her services. "Hey, you're pretty as hell. How much for one night?" the young, vibrant man asked. Stacy helped conclude the price since she knew the man. Precious was bought that night and went with the man to his hotel room. Precious felt ashamed, nervous, and a little afraid, but she was desperate. She had made up her mind to do anything to save her family. She swallowed her pride and laid with the young man for the night. The next day, Precious woke up and realized what she had done. Her eyes were opened wide. She felt a taste of satisfaction for the first time in her life, and was compensated with a huge amount of money for the service rendered. She also enjoyed it, but felt guilty that an unknown man had taken her virginity. After a while, she got over it and moved on for the money. Precious got home and showed Stacy the money she had made. Stacy was proud of her and kept encouraging her, not knowing she had let the dog out of the cage. After many times of Precious sleeping with men, she became a tigress, a hunter every man wanted to have a taste of. Men enjoyed her company and what she brought to the table. Even married men came looking for her. Precious became uncontrollable, to the extent that Stacy began to fear for her and what she had become. She was putting other girls out of their jobs, and they are very pissed at her. Every man was under her spell and always wanted her services. Precious made a lot of money to put her siblings through school and take care of her mother. Her mother and siblings didn't know the nature of her job since she kept it a secret from them. Precious had gone to a point of no return. She didn't recognize herself anymore, as she has been used by men on a daily basis. Precious was now the top value in that work, surpassing Stacy, who had taught her the way. It became a problem for the two friends. Stacy and Precious eventually separated after a big fight. Precious found another apartment and settled herself. She did the job for almost 2 years until one day, everything changed. Leonard was a handsome young man who had returned from the United States to start his life in his country. He had 2 friends, Akim and Daniel, who took him around to show him the best places in the city, as he had been abroad for 9 years and must have forgotten many things. Leonard was sitting with his friends in the office when Akim brought up a conversation about ladies. "When was the last time you got laid, bro?" he asked, looking at Leonard, waiting for his response. "I can't remember the last time, though. But for now, I'm a little busy to start thinking about all those stuff," Leonard replied, not giving much thought to the question. "Come on, bro. Okay, do you know what? We'll hook you up with a fresh blood that will keep you company in your house tonight," Daniel said. Akeem and Daniel persuaded Leonard for hours until he agreed, since his friends wouldn't shut up about it. He finally agreed to play along. During the night hour, Daniel called Precious, one of their very best, to go for housework. That night, Precious arrived at Leonard's house. Leonard opened the door and invited her into the parlor as they properly introduced themselves. After some casual conversation and watching some stuff, Precious tried to approach Leonard intimately. Leonard resisted her and decided to sit and chat instead of engaging in intimacy that night with her. "Look, Precious, it's not that I don't find you attractive. You are, in fact, the most beautiful woman I have ever set my eyes on. But I want to ask, why this line of work?" Leonard asked, curious to know why such a beautiful woman would be doing such a job. That question awakened the deepest emotions Precious had locked away for 2 years. "Wow, you seem to be the first man to have asked me this question in 2 years. Others would just rush and go for my body," she replied, feeling alive for the first time after losing every bit of humanity she had left. "Okay then. Now I am asking you, not as a client, but as someone who wants to be your friend. Why this job?" he asked again. Precious felt she couldn't open up to Leonard and left his house abruptly and emotionally in tears. Leonard was confused about why she left but didn't panic. As he let her go, Precious got to her apartment and cried all night, yearning for a change in her life. For 3 weeks, she disconnected her cell phone. Even her favorite clients couldn't reach her during this time. In her apartment, Precious reflected on her life and Leonard's question. It all came flooding back to her as she questioned herself. What have I done to myself? How far have I gone? Who am I? How lost am I? She was confused but had time to think it over. 1 month later, while heading to the market, she coincidentally bumped into Leonard. Leonard remembered her face vividly, and they exchanged a handshake with a pleasant smile. Leonard invited her to a bar, and they sat together. "How are you doing? It's been a month now, and I've been trying to reach you through my friend, but he said you were nowhere to be found, and from your records, you've never done this before in your line of work," Leonard said. "I just wanted to clear my head for a while, that's all," Precious replied. Leonard noticed Precious hadn't been well since their last meeting. He asked her the same question from their previous encounter, and this time, Precious was open enough to narrate her life experiences to him. Leonard understood her and realized that Precious wanted to change but had no other choice at the time. Leonard helped Precious out by offering her a job in the company he was building from scratch with a good salary. Precious's face lit a smile, happier than she had ever been in the past 2 years. Some weeks later, she visited Stacy and apologized for her previous actions. They reconciled and moved on. Months later, Leonard fell in love with Precious as their working relationship grew. Precious had always been in love with Leonard but couldn't say anything because of her past. One day, while having lunch, Precious gathered the courage to speak. "I love you, Leonard. I know it sounds crazy due to my past and what I've done. I couldn't hold it in any longer, and I don't know if you feel the same way," she said with a scared expression. Leonard reached out for her hands and professed his love back. Precious found renewed love despite her past. She never thought anything could change her, believing she was destined to go to hell for sure. But now, she had been saved by an angel in disguise. Dear viewers, what do you think about this story? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and share it with friends. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks, and see you in the next video. Bye.